Before the north was tamed by kings, before crosses replaced ravens, the world still belonged to the old gods, and the sea, that endless black mirror, reflected only their fury. It was from those waters that Eirik the Red Hand was born. Not the explorer you've read in books. This Eirik's name was carved from blood and storm. They said his mother died birthing him beneath an eclipse, and that the midwife who touched him went blind by morning. He grew as the sea grew, violent, unyielding, and full of hunger. When he was 12, he killed his first man. When he was 20, his name was whispered in fear from Trondheim to the edges of Skagen. They said he fought not for gold nor for women, but for the silence that came after slaughter, a silence that only Odin could understand. And perhaps Odin did. One winter night when the fjords were frozen like glass, Eirik's clan gathered around a dying fire. They had been raiding for weeks, starving, broken, and lost in fog. Men muttered of omens, a raven circling without cry, a wolf walking backward into the woods. Then, as if the air itself had torn open, a wind screamed down from the mountains. The fire died, but the smoke stayed. And in that smoke a shadow stood, tall, cloaked, and crowned with antlers. The men fell to their knees. Eirik did not. The shadow spoke, its voice like thunder under ice. "Eirik," it said, "you are my storm. You will burn kingdoms, and your name will feed the crows. But remember this, the gods give no gifts, every victory demands its debt." And when the smoke cleared, the fire reignited, burning blue. Eirik stood alone, eyes wide and unblinking. The others swore they saw a mark upon his chest, a handprint of soot, black and smoldering. From that day, the raids changed. Eirik's ships never sank, his arrows never missed, even storms bent around his sails as if afraid to touch him. He became a legend, the chosen of Odin. Villages burned, and his banner, the Black Raven, became a curse whispered by dying men. But with each victory came whispers that Eirik had changed, that he no longer slept, that he spoke to no man, only the wind, that in his dreams he saw Odin's eye, watching, waiting, hungry. Then came the raid on Lindholm. The village was sacred, a place of seers and priestesses. Eirik's men hesitated. "You can't spill blood on that land," they warned. "It's Odin's own." Eirik smiled. "Then he will watch." At dawn the village burned, and in the temple Eirik found her, a woman veiled in ash-white cloth, her face hidden, her voice calm. "You've gone too far," she said. "The gods marked you for glory, not for defiance." Eirik laughed. "Then they should have chosen a weaker man." The priestess raised her hand. On her palm was the same black mark as his. "The mark of the chosen," she said, "is not a blessing, it's a leash." But Eirik grabbed her wrist, pressing her palm against his chest. "Then let them pull." He left her temple in ruins. But as the flames rose, the priestess whispered a curse. "When you next call to Odin, he will answer. But not as your god, as your enemy." The years that followed turned Eirik from man to myth. His beard went grey, his eyes colder. He no longer prayed before battle, he mocked the gods instead. Before every raid he raised his sword and shouted to the sky, "Where are you, All-Father? You watch, you take, but you never fight. Come down from your throne and bleed as I bleed." His men cheered, but the storms grew crueler. Ships began to vanish. The sea, once his ally, now swallowed his warriors whole. One by one his sons died, not by blade, but by strange, sudden sickness. His hall grew quiet. Still, Eirik refused to kneel. He built an altar, not of stone, but of the skulls of his enemies. And one night, drunk on mead and madness, he stood before it and raised his sword. "You think I serve you, One Eye? I am you. I take what I want, I feed on war. I am the god you wish you were." Thunder answered him, a sound that shook the fjord. His men fled, only Eirik remained. And when the storm broke, they said a bolt struck his hall, but instead of fire, it left behind silence. When dawn came, Eirik was gone. Only a single raven feather lay upon his throne. Weeks later, a fisherman found him, washed ashore naked, his beard burned, his eyes both gone. They took him to the seer of Trondheim, an old woman blind from birth. She knelt beside him and whispered, "You have seen the one who sees all." Eric did not speak for 3 days. When he did, his voice was quiet, too quiet. He showed me a tree that bleeds. He said my place was not beside him, but beneath him. I spat in his face. The seer trembled. Then you have cursed the sky itself. But Eric only smiled. No, I've freed myself. That winter, strange things began to happen. Crops withered overnight. Cattle gave birth to stillborn calves. The northern lights turned red. And every dawn, the people of Eric's village found ravens, dead, hundreds of them, scattered on the roofs. When his men begged him to make offering, he refused. "The gods can bleed," he said, "and I will prove it." He ordered a ship built, not for war, but for defiance, its prow carved in the shape of a serpent swallowing the sun, its sails painted black as night. He called it Skull, the Skull. The night before he sailed, the priestess from Lindholm returned. No longer veiled, her eyes glowed faintly blue, her face untouched by time. "You would still defy them?" she asked. "Even now, when your sons lie dead and your sea runs red?" Eric looked past her toward the dark horizon. "I have nothing left to fear, not even gods." She stepped closer. "Then know this. You will not kill them. You will join them. In torment, not triumph." Eric's smile was sad. "I've been in torment since the day I was born." At dawn, he set sail into a sky without light. His crew, a handful of madmen and outcasts, followed him into the fog. The sea was silent, no gulls, no wind. Then came the whisper, low and endless, like 1,000 voices beneath the water. The men began to panic, but Eric only laughed. "Do you hear it?" he shouted. "The gods are afraid." Lightning split the sky. The sea exploded, and from the depths rose something vast, a serpent of shadow, eyes burning white. Its body coiled around the ship, its breath freezing the air. The men screamed. Eric stood at the prow, sword raised. "I name you Jörmungandr. Tell your masters their time has come." The serpent struck. Wood shattered. The sea swallowed them whole, and in that moment the world itself seemed to hold its breath. They say the storm lasted 7 days. When it cleared, only debris remained, and a single black sail floating like a flag of surrender. But years later, sailors swore they saw something in the fog near Iceland, a ghost ship with black sails moving against the wind. And on its prow stood a man with no eyes, laughing. They say he sails still, chasing the horizon, searching for the gods who betrayed him. And wherever he sails, storms follow. Some call him cursed, some call him mad. But the Skalds, they call him the last free man. Because Eric the Red Hand had done what no Viking before him dared. He defied the gods and lived to make them bleed. The sea did not claim him, it returned him. When Eric the Red Hand awoke, he was lying upon a shore of black glass. The sky above him churned like smoke trapped in a jar, the sun no more than a red smear behind the clouds. He could not tell if it was dawn or dusk. Only that time itself seemed to have stopped. His ship was gone. His men, gone. Only his sword remained, fused with frost, whispering faintly when he touched it. "You've come too far," it seemed to say. "Turn back." But there was no turning back. For before him, rising from the mist, stood a tree. Its roots pierced the stone, its branches clawed at the sky. And from those branches hung bodies, men, beasts, and things between. Eric knew its name at once, Yggdrasil, the world tree, the bridge between all that lives and all that's damned. He had found it, or perhaps it had found him. He staggered closer. Each step echoed like thunder. Ravens circled above, but their caws sounded wrong, like laughter twisted through teeth. At the base of the tree burned a faint blue fire, and within it sat a figure cloaked in smoke. One eye gleamed like a dying star, the other was a hole in the world. "Odin," Eirik whispered. The figure turned, but the voice that answered was not the god's, it was his own. "You would take my throne, Eirik Redhand?" the shadow asked. "Then take my curse." The fire flared, pain tore through him. Every wound he'd ever given, every life he'd ever ended returned all at once. He screamed until the ravens fell silent. When he awoke, he was no longer on the shore. He stood in his own hall, but it was empty, half rotten, the air thick with salt and ash. Outside, the fjord bled red. He was home, yet centuries seemed to have passed. The people of his village fled from him when he emerged. Children cried, dogs howled, and old women whispered that his shadow moved on its own. They called him Draga, the walking dead. At night he heard voices in the walls. The priestess of Lindholm appeared to him in dreams, her face half burned, half divine. "You cannot kill gods, Eirik," she said, "but they can live inside you." Each morning he found new scars across his skin, marks that glowed faintly like runes. Each night he dreamed of the serpent beneath the sea, wrapping tighter around the world. Winter came early that year. Snow fell black. Eirik wandered the frozen cliffs, speaking to the wind, to Odin, to no one. He had begun to change. His blood no longer steamed in the cold. His heart beat only when he was angry, and his reflection, when he dared look, smiled back even when he did not. One night the villagers came for him with torches. They said his curse was killing the land. They said he must burn as Grandier once burned, though Eirik knew not that priest's name. He let them bind him. He did not fight. But when they lit the pyre, the flames turned blue, and from within them came laughter, deep, echoing, endless. The villagers fled. When they returned at dawn, the ropes were ash, the pyre untouched, and Eirik was gone. Only a single raven remained, perched on the stones, its eyes pale as ice. They found him again years later in the far north, among the ruins of a temple to Thor. He had built himself a throne of bones and whale skulls. Around him, runes pulsed with faint light, like embers refusing to die. Travelers said he sat there for days without moving, as if waiting for something. Some claimed to hear two voices when he spoke, one human, one divine. "The gods eat worship," he said. "I eat gods." Then he would laugh and the sea itself would tremble. One night a storm struck like none before. Lightning tore the sky apart, and from it descended a figure wrapped in armor of starlight. A Valkyrie, wings spread, spear glowing. "Eirik of the Red Hand," she said, "the Allfather calls you to account. Kneel, and your torment will end." He rose, slow and smiling. "Tell your master," he said, "that I kneel to no sky." The spear struck his chest. He caught it in one hand. Blood, black, thick, steaming, ran down the shaft. He pulled her close until her golden eyes met the hollow where his once were. "You think death frightens me," he whispered. "Death envies me." He broke the spear. The Valkyrie's scream split the mountain in two, and when the storm cleared, her wings lay scattered across the snow. Eirik walked away, his footprints burning faintly behind him. Years passed, or maybe hours. Time no longer meant anything. Skalds began to sing of him not as man or monster, but as omen. Wherever war brewed, a one-eyed wanderer was seen at its edge, watching. He did not fight. He only waited until the dying began to pray. And when they prayed, he listened. Then he whispered back, "The gods cannot hear you, but I can." Those who heard him never prayed again. One final tale remains. They say during a blood moon, Eirik returned to the world tree. This time, it welcomed him. Its branches curled like fingers, its roots dripping with black sap. Beneath it sat Odin, not in anger, but in weariness. "You've proven your point, Red Hand," the god said. "Even gods can bleed, but tell me, are you free?" Eirik laughed, though no sound came. His mouth moved, his breath a mist of frost. "Freedom is a lie," he said, "but defiance is eternal." He drove his sword into the ground between them. The roots shuddered. The tree wept blood. And then Eirik stepped forward, into the wound he had made in the world. The tree swallowed him whole. Some say he became the roots themselves, feeding on divine rot. Some say he is still sailing, forever chasing the edge of creation. But the old men of the north tell another story, that when thunder rolls and the sea turns black, you can hear a laugh carried by the wind. Not cruel, not joyous, just free. Centuries later, when the Christians came and built their churches on Viking graves, a monk in Iceland recorded a strange vision. "I saw a man upon the storm. His eyes were pits of light, his hand burned red as molten iron. He held a raven upon his shoulder, And the bird whispered into his ear, "The gods have fallen and still he sails." The monk never wrote again. His parchment was found stained with salt water, though his cell lay far from the sea. And so the legend endures of Eirik the Red Hand, the Viking who defied the gods, the man who made Odin bleed, and the storm that never died.